Are you active down here as a Mason?
I haven't been to lodge. Actually, I've attended lodge in Havana, Cuba more than I have here. Yeah, I have a 16-year-old boy in Cuba. When I go down there, I go to the Grand Lodge, on the street Carlos de Cerro in Havana. And I actually sat in the East for the Grand Master of all Cuba about 5 years ago.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
That's so. Why did you decide you wanted to bring the pipes out and become this? To me, what I do is I talk to Scottish Rite Masons from all over the country, and like kind of find out, because there's so many. We've got doctors and lawyers, and we've got a bagpiper. So what made you say, to heck with having a regular job? Because I did that myself, and here you are.
Well, when I first came to Key West, I started working a job at the hospital. I had about 6 months, and someone said to me, "Hey." Well, I had my pipes with me. I was a pipe sergeant in a band in Connecticut. So I had my pipes with me, and they said, "Why don't you go out and try it at Mallory Square?" So I said, I came out. It was pretty good. Back in 1980, I made $30 that night, which was a lot of money back then. And then I eventually left the hospital a few months later and started doing this ever since. And I've been doing it now since 1980, full time.
That's awesome. That is a really great story.
Uncle Sam never got a dime on me.
Let's keep that between us girls, all right? I won't out you. And and I saw your compass and square on the on your donation box here, and you're making sure everybody gets a postcard. You must meet people just from all over the world.
I've been in magazines. There's a series that they had, Key West. It was a comedy back about 20 years ago. I'm in every series.
All right, brother. It's great to meet you. I'll let you get back to work here. Thank you so much.
Keep up the good work, man.
Thank you, brother. Brother Dennis Riley, the southernmost bagpiper in the U.S. and a Scottish Rite Mason at Mallory Square in Key West for the sunset ceremony. When I perform with my band, I've got a large square and compass that's on my guitar. It's gold, and when the lights hit it, it really reflects. So I'm not at all shy about being a Freemason. And one of the reasons I have that compass and square there is that every time I perform, I meet Masons from all over the country. And this time, I ran into a Fellowcraft from New Orleans, Brother Sham Benjamin. He's currently working on his second-degree catechism, and it was so much fun to meet someone new and talk to a new guy about the craft. Give me your name, brother.
Sham Benjamin Singh.
And you're from New Orleans?
New Orleans, Louisiana.
A lot of friends and brothers in New Orleans. You are currently a Fellowcraft, and you came up to me here at the Sloppy Joe's. This is a world-famous bar in Key West. You came up and said hi to me. So, new Mason, you're coming out partying and running into other Masons for the first time. Give me your impression.
I just love being a part of something.
Yeah.
And finding a brother and knowing that we know what each other knows.
It's like a common thread that runs between all of us. And like I ran into so many guys, and it's like this guy went through the same rituals and trials that I did. And then I went to the Harry Truman thing up the street here, which we just did on the podcast a few minutes ago. And it's like President Truman went through the same stuff we did. It's like it's this thread that binds us all together. No matter where you go, what you do, you got good friends.
Absolutely.
Just by saying, well, I'm really glad you reached out and said hi. I wish you continued success in your journey, and I hope you'll check out into the Scottish Rite when you get a second, once you become a Master Mason.
I love finding a new light. We'll go from there.
The Tyler's Place Podcast, brought to you by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction. He's a Masonic rock star, and this is his game. Tyler's Trivia with Grand Archivist Arturo de Hoyos.
Art, the dog days of summer are winding down, and we prepare for September, and we prepare to resume our labors. How are you doing?
Well, summer's not quite over yet, and it has been a warm one here in the Washington, D.C. area. There have been a couple of times when we've actually hit the nation's high, and I believe it's been the hottest summer on record.
And we are somewhat air-conditioned challenged here in the House of the Temple, and for the most part, it does get a little balmy in here.
It does. Many people don't realize this, but the House of the Temple was retrofitted with the air conditioning that we do have. If you go up into the temple room, the only air conditioning that we have is by opening two large bronze doors and having a breeze blow through there. And I can tell you that with 100 or 200 people in there, it's not very efficient, but it's got to be better than just sitting up there in the heat of the summer without any other, how can I say this? Well, let's just say that Washington, D.C. is a hot place to be, and the House of the Temple is the hottest place to be.
That is actually why several decades ago they started having the biennial session meetings, not inside the House of the Temple, but rather up the street of the hotel, so that there could be some air conditioning, because you just cannot think correctly in a room that's as hot as the temple room gets with all those guys.
Well, that's absolutely true. But as Masons, we all know how good and how pleasant it is to dwell together in unity.
It is, but we don't want to smell each other in the heat of summer, you know?
And on that happy note.
All right, we have some business to attend to. Last month's question in Tyler's Trivia, what was the 10-volume set of Masonic lore that Albert Pike edited? And the answer, sir?
Albert Pike edited the official bulletin of the Supreme Council from 1870 to 1890, and it consumes 10 volumes and about 2 feet of shelf space.
I get the sense that Albert Pike was extremely prolific. Now, he didn't have Netflix or cable television or anything else to occupy his time, so obviously authors of that era were more prolific than authors of today. However, even with that, it seems as though his quantity of work was incredibly massive for the time. I mean, he just seems just to crank out info all the time.
Albert Pike was extremely prolific. In 1953 or 57, I think 57, there was a published biography, or bibliography, excuse me, of the writings of Albert Pike. And it lists literally thousands of work. Many of his writings are still in manuscript. They're in the archives here at the House of the Temple. And occasionally we do print and publish those through the Scottish Rite Research Society. But we do have a tremendous collection of his writings which are still in manuscript. Later in his life, he became interested in such things as Hindu Vedic literature, and we have a collection of bound manuscripts in his handwriting that must take up, 3,000 or 5,000 pages of his translations of the Vedas.
I have seen some of Albert Pike's handwriting, and like many of the day, it is a little challenging to read and to look at. Do you still have trouble viewing it at this point, or have you kind of figured it out?
20 years ago, his writing was difficult for me to read. Now I can read it pretty much as well as I can read my own.
Very interesting stuff. Always like getting the inside scoop from you, Art. And we did have a winner this month, came in via email. Brother Len Elliott from the Valley of Baltimore, one of my homeboys. He wrote in and had the correct answer and is going to receive an autographed copy of one of Arturo de Hoyos' fantastic books. And everybody wants one of those for their collection. So now, on with this month's question for Tyler's Trivia, August 2016. Fire away when ready, Arturo de Hoyos.
All right, brethren, put your thinking caps on. In which Scottish Rite degree are we told that what is truth to one man is not truth to another?
As always, brothers, if you know the answer, you can send your answer to podcast@scottishrite.org or send me a brother-to-brother message on SR Chirp. We will select one winner from each place at random from all the correct answers we receive, and that brother will get a great autograph book from Art de Hoyos. Art, what is it that you have coming up for fall? Labors resume here in a couple of weeks, you know?
Well, this fall we have a couple things coming up, but probably the most important is that in November we have Scottish Rite Day, November 12th.
The fall is always an exciting time with reunions in the Scottish Rite, but this year it's going to be even more so. As you mentioned, Brother Art, Scottish Rite Day. You can get the details at srday2016.org, and we're going to talk about it a lot next month right here on the show. Brother Art, we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, it's my pleasure. And brethren, don't forget, we don't select a winner until just before the next show. So if you're a little late in listening to the podcast, but you think you've got the right answer, do not hesitate to send your answer in, because all right answers have an equal chance at winning.
From the House of the Temple in Washington, D.C., this is the Tyler's Place.
That's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Tyler's Place. I really appreciate you joining me on my Masonic summer vacation, and I would love to know about yours. If you had some cool experiences, if you had some interesting Masonic travel, tell me about it. Send me an email, podcast@scottishrite.org, or send me a brother-to-brother message on SR Chirp. I would love to hear all about it. Don't forget, Scottish Rite Day is coming up. You heard Brother Arturo de Hoyos mention it there. November 12th is when it's happening. And this is a day when both the northern and southern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite are going to come together to celebrate our great fraternity. What's your valley doing? Tell me about it. Podcast@scottishrite.org. You can get details for what Scottish Rite Day is all about by visiting srday2016.org online to get the info and find out what some other valleys are up to. But again, I want to know what your valley is up to. Podcast@scottishrite.org. Labors resume, September looms, and we'll catch you next month here on The Tyler's Place.
If you're interested in becoming a Freemason or in joining the Scottish Rite, email us at podcast@scottishrite.org.